Alright, so a couple days ago I did a video talking about NFL players who have little brothers who are currently in college. You guys absolutely loved that one, so we're going to go ahead and do a part 2. I came up with 8 more examples of players who are in the NFL who have younger siblings in college, and today we will talk about them. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started. Okay, so our first example is the King brothers. We have Kalen and Kobe King. Coming out of Cass Tech High School in Detroit, Kalen was considered a 4-star prospect in the class of 2021 and the number 6 prospect in the state of Michigan. He chose to sign with Penn State. He was an instant impact player as a freshman, having 23 tackles and 5 pass deflections, and then became a starter in 2022. After his junior year in 2023, making a second-team All-Big Ten appearance, he was drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the 7th round of the 2024 draft. After spending some time on the practice squad, he was elevated to the active roster late in the season. His brother Kobe is a different athlete altogether. He was also a member of the class of 2021, and Kobe played linebacker instead of DB. He was a 3-star prospect and the 14th best player from the state of Michigan. He also signed with Penn State, but only found the field a few times as a freshman. In 2022, he had 41 tackles, and he improved to 59 tackles and 1.5 sacks his junior year. He didn't declare for the draft with his brother, and had 97 tackles and 3 sacks this past season in 2024. Alright, so now we get to move over to the quarterback position and talk about the Wilson brothers. Zach Wilson was a 3-star quarterback recruit in the class of 2018 out of Corner Canyon High School in Draper, Utah, and he chose to go to BYU. He was thrown into the fire early on as a freshman, making 7 starts and throwing for 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 3 picks. As a sophomore in 2019, he started 9 games and threw for 2,300 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. As a junior, he blew up, throwing for nearly 3,700 yards and 33 scores, and only 3 picks. He got drafted number 2 overall by the New York Jets, but his NFL career fizzled out, and he's ultimately only thrown for 6,300 yards and 23 touchdowns in 4 years at the NFL level. His younger brother Isaac also attended Corner Canyon, but was more highly rated as a 4-star because of his brother's success. He signed with Utah in the class of 2024 and instantly started some games for them due to injuries in their quarterback room. He played in 9 games, starting 7 of them, leading Utah to a 2-5 record by throwing for 1,100 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. He briefly entered the transfer portal, but decided to stay at Utah ultimately. Next up are Tyler and Jordan Nubin. Tyler was a 4-star corner in the class of 2019 who decided to sign with Minnesota. He had 6 tackles as a true freshman backup in 2019, but his sophomore year in 2020, he broke out a bit. He ended up having 41 tackles and an interception. He then had 52 tackles, 3 picks, and a sack in 2021, and 52 tackles and 4 picks as a senior in 2022. He even came back for the 2023 season, and was actually a first-team All-American and a first-team All-Big Ten selection, and was drafted by the New York Giants in the 2nd round. He recorded 57 tackles and a forced fumble before ending the season on IR. His younger brother Jordan was unranked in the class of 2021, but still committed to Minnesota as a running back. He played as a backup in 10 games as a redshirt freshman with 26 yards and 9 carries. Then as a sophomore in 2023, he broke out running for 559 yards and 3 scores. But his workload would decrease in 2024 to just 19 yards, which is unfortunate. After the 2024 season, with his older brother gone and drafted, Jordan entered the transfer portal and actually ended up with Kent State, and hopefully he might be able to help them win a game in 2025. Ronnie Bell was a 3-star receiver coming out of Park Hill High School in Kansas City, and his brother was also really good. Ronnie was back in the class of 2018 and would decide to commit to the Michigan Wolverines. He had 145 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns as a true freshman, and added 758 yards and a touchdown the next year in 2019, leading all Michigan receivers. He led the Wolverines again in 2020 with 400 yards and a score, and then got hurt in the first game of 2021 and had to sit out until 2022. He ended up having a tremendous year as he had 889 yards and 4 touchdowns. The 49ers decided to take him in the 7th round of the 2023 NFL Draft, and so far in the league, he has 8 catches for 90 yards and 3 scores. His younger brother Kendrick was a 3-star quarterback in the class of 2023, who also played for Park Hill High School and also committed to Michigan. He spent his freshman year at Michigan playing quarterback, but was down on the depth chart and was restricted to being a scout team quarterback. He moved to receiver his sophomore year, where he had 7 catches for 70 yards as a depth piece. Next up are Ray Ray and Jordan McLeod. Ray Ray was a 4-star recruit coming out of Sickles High School in Tampa Bay, Florida, and was part of the class of 2015. Clemson would sign him as a running back, but he would eventually move to wide receiver. As a freshman at Clemson, Ray Ray caught 29 passes for 251 yards and a score. He improved to 472 yards and 2 touchdowns his sophomore year, and then 500 yards and a touchdown in 2017. He was good enough to go off to the league and was drafted by the Buffalo Bills in the 6th round, but later spent time with the Steelers, 49ers, and Falcons. So far in his NFL career, he has about 1,500 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, and 271 rushing yards. His younger brother Jordan played for Plant High School in Tampa, but he was a quarterback that's played pretty much everywhere. He was a 2-star recruit in the class of 2018 who originally committed to USF. As a redshirt freshman in 2019, he threw for 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns, but after a 2020 year in which he only threw for 1,300 yards, he would transfer to Arizona. In 2021, he threw for 481 yards and 2 scores with an absurd high 5 picks before he left the team after losing the starting job. He then transferred to JMU in 2023, where he went 10-2 as a starter and threw for 3,700 yards and 35 touchdowns. In 2024, he transferred to Texas State and threw for 3,200 yards and 30 touchdowns. So in 6 years of playing football and 5 years of being an active player, he's thrown for over 10,000 yards, 88 touchdowns, and 38 picks, with a 23-21 record as a starter. Okay, so after that, we have both Alex and Dalen Austin. Alex was a 3-star corner in the class of 2019 out of Long Beach, California, who chose to play for Oregon State. He didn't really play all that much as a freshman and sophomore, but made his first starts for the Beavers in 2021. He had 2 interceptions and 7 pass deflections in 2021, and then in 2022, he had 2 more picks and 10 pass deflections. He declared for the NFL draft and was selected by the Buffalo Bills in the 7th round. He didn't last long in Buffalo, though, and bounced around between the Houston Texans and Patriots practice squads before ending up on the Pats' active roster for 2024. He was injured and spent a lot of 2024 on IR, though. Sadly, though, his brother Dalen did not end up in a good spot. He was a 4-star corner recruit out of Long Beach in the class of 2023 and chose to play at Oregon instead of Oregon State. In 2 years with the Ducks, he had just 13 total tackles and 1 pass deflection. Off the field, he was recently charged in a felony hit-and-run case before the 2024 season, and unfortunate things happened there. I hope everything gets figured out, and he ends up learning from his mistake. Okay, so after that, we have a unique family situation, as we have to talk about Bo Nix and Tez Johnson. They technically are not blood brothers, but they've lived together growing up and consider each other brothers. Bo was originally a 4-star quarterback in the class of 2019 out of Scottsboro, Alabama, before transferring to Pinson. He signed with his dad's alma mater at Auburn, where he started all 13 games his freshman year, throwing for 2,500 yards and 16 touchdowns while going 9-4. In 2020, he went 6-5, throwing for 2,400 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 7 picks. And then in 2021, he went 6-4 in 10 games, throwing for 2,300 yards and 11 scores. Looking for an opportunity to improve his career, he transferred to Oregon in 2022 with Dan Lanning, going 10-2 in his first season, throwing for nearly 3,600 yards and 29 touchdowns. In 2023, he'd come back and use his extra year of eligibility and went 12-2 as a starter, throwing for an absurd high 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions, if only Washington didn't exist. He then got drafted by the Denver Broncos in the first round of the 2024 draft, and he helped lead Denver to a 10-7 record in their first playoff appearance since 2015 by throwing for over 3,900 yards and 30 touchdowns. Tez Johnson was adopted by Bo's family and was a 3-star receiver in the class of 2020 who chose to play at Troy. He would have 200 yards as a depth piece in 2020, but had 735 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2021, and then 836 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2022. He also chose to transfer alongside Bo Nix to Oregon in 2023. He had nearly 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns alongside Troy Franklin, and then had another 900 yards and 10 touchdowns this past year in 2024, and will likely get drafted this spring. Okay, so the last guy to talk about is Michael and Mekhi Penix. Michael Penix Jr. was a quarterback recruit coming out of Florida and was part of the class of 2018. He ended up flipping from Tennessee to Indiana, but didn't see much playing time as a true freshman as he got hurt. As a redshirt freshman in 2019, he'd start 6 games, going 5-1 as a starter, and throwing for 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns. He then started 6 games again in 2020, that was part of that crazy Indiana team, and went 5-1 as a starter, throwing for 1,600 yards and 14 touchdowns before he got hurt. With a lot of hype and momentum, 2021 was a complete disaster, and he went 2-3 as a starter, throwing for 939 yards and 4 touchdowns with 7 picks. He then followed Kalen DeBoer to Washington in 2022 to try to save his career, where he started all 13 games for the Huskies and went 11-2. He threw for 4,600 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 8 picks, and then came back as the starter next year in 2023, and helped lead Washington to their best season since the 90s with a 14-1 record as a starter and 4,000 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 11 picks. He was drafted in the first round by the Atlanta Falcons in the 2024 NFL Draft and would finish his rookie season with a 1-2 record in 3 starts. He threw for 775 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. His younger brother Mekhi was an unranked recruit in the class of 2023 who also played in the Tampa area. He ended up signing with FCS Tennessee Tech as a receiver. He played in 1 game during the 2023 campaign and in 5 games during the 2024 campaign. Sadly, he didn't record any snaps in a pass-happy offense, but many are hoping his role will expand as he has good size at 6'4" and good speed. So yeah, today we talked about 8 more examples of current NFL players who have younger brothers who are in college. Some of them are stars in their own right and will be drafted this spring, and some of them haven't really stepped on the field yet. Either way though, it's always interesting, and if you have another pair that I missed, be sure to drop it down below for part 3. Let me know what other topic I could do next, and before you go, don't forget to also leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.